I'm Cheryl Johns, Executive Director of the Altoona Housing Authority and a Steering Committee member of Operation Our Town. On behalf of the Authority and Operation Our Town, I'd like to thank you for attending today's very informative workshop focusing on landlord education and responsibilities associated with being a property owner. Through a collaborative effort between the Housing Authority and Operation Our Town, we hope you find this workshop educational, informative, and very beneficial in your effort to provide safe and secure housing opportunities to many residents throughout the county. Being a landlord is not always an easy task, especially in today's society when we are faced with issues such as drug and criminal activity taking place all around us, and sometimes without our knowledge that this is happening inside our units. Hopefully today's workshop will provide useful information regarding what is suspicious activity, what screening criteria I should use before housing an individual in my property, the value of having a lease, and how to protect your property. Solving a crime and drug problem in Blair County cannot be done with law enforcement alone. This is a community effort, and we need your assistance. I encourage everyone to adopt and make changes to your lease, enforcing a zero tolerance for drug and criminal activity. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce Michael Fiore, who will provide you with an overview of the vision, goal, and mission of Operation Our Town.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for your participation in today's seminar and information. My name is Michael Fiore, and I'm a businessman here in Blair County, one of the founders of Operation Our Town. And basically what Operation Our Town, I want to give you a little background to what the organization is, what it does, and why we're here today with the Housing Authority through the Roundtable. Basically, Operation Our Town is a nonprofit 501c3 corporation set up by a group of businessmen and the community leaders that we have sitting around our steering committee, experts in their fields, for a mission of partnership between business and community to facilitate, to work with the drugs, the violent crime around drugs, through proven law enforcement, proven prevention, and proven treatment programs. And we're working on about 9 months of the operation. Our steering committee has made up of all the different volunteers from throughout Blair County. This is a Blair County-wide effort and issue. This is not just the city of Altoona. However, the city of Altoona is a nucleus of Blair County, and where a lot of the issues are. And so we're focusing there, and we're moving out throughout the county. And landlords are a very important part in the solution to fighting drugs. We have a lot of rental properties. We have a lot of tenants out there, and we have people moving from place to place. I'm a landlord myself. Through the steering committee, we have beneath the board and the steering committee of Operation Our Town, we have roundtables, and the purpose of the roundtables is for each industry or each segment. For example, we have a housing roundtable, we have a faith-based roundtable, we have a volunteer roundtable, law enforcement roundtables, criminal and judicial roundtables, a gang roundtable, and a marketing roundtable. And we're looking at starting pharmacy roundtable, banking roundtable, and these roundtables are set up for the purpose that business is forming a partnership with the community. This is a community-led effort. Business can't solve it. Business can be a partner. What we're asking through businesses is it affects our businesses every day. We want to participate and we want to be part of the solution. But it's the community that's going to be the solution. And through the community and through these roundtables and the people that are sitting on these boards and the roundtables, this event today came out of the roundtable issues. They're looking at what can they do to help prevent drug use in Blair County, prevention and how can we enforce it, and looking at the different issues that surround housing. And we're doing the same thing in each one of these roundtables. You know, banks are facing an unbelievable amount of robberies. Pharmacies facing robberies. Illegal prescription writing. Different issues that all surround the drug world. And what we're doing with these roundtables, and the housing is up and running and just doing phenomenal things. The volunteers that we have sitting on these communities and the partnerships we're forming. And through these partnerships, then we've went out and raised money, and we're still continuing to raising money. We've raised over $1 million of commitments over the next 3 years. We've issued different grants to date. We've issued over $250,000 to law enforcement, which included a special purchase. It was basically broken down into 3 different areas. One was special purchases, something like the bulletproof vest that we provided law enforcement, a couple other different items that they've come to us for. The other was for special operations, about $100,000 used in special operations. You read about in the newspaper all the time, the new warrant squad, the 10 most wanted, different things like that. The other was to hire a DA, because with all the extra pressure that we're putting on for local law enforcement into the county, they thought it was going to be pertinent that we hire another full-time DA to work with the drug cases. And not only just with the cases and prosecuting the cases, but also doing forfeitures and different things like that. So we thought it was important that we support them. If we're causing part of the problem, that we prevent them with a solution. So we've granted money for a full-time DA. And that was a 3-year commitment. We've also granted, under the prevention side of it, we've granted a $10,000 grant to the SWOOP organization, which in turn gained $100,000 of federal money. So we took $10,000 that the community gave, and we turned it into $110,000, which put these 2 lovely young ladies, my new SWOOP girlfriends, on the streets working with children, children of need, children, and trying to seek out some of the solutions and some of the people that we can try to, that are borderline, that we can try to sway one way or the other. And it was a very worthwhile grant. We just gave a grant to Tyrone District for a drug dog for law enforcement that they'll be putting into service down in Tyrone. We're actually currently under review of 12 other grants that have been submitted to us in excess of $500,000. So the process is working. Our goal, this is not Operation Our Town, what can you do for me? It's what can we do for the community? And this is exactly what we're hearing, what we heard out of the roundtable, is show us the tools, show us what we can, what the needs are, give us what, put back and give you some tools to work with to control the housing. And this is very important. It's a very important part of the fight. And I'm just glad to be a part of it. And if there's anything that we can do, and if what I'd ask of you is volunteer. We're going to have volunteer applications up there. We have it on our website. If you need more information, our website's up and running. It's www.operationourtown.org. You can go on, see the things that we're doing. There's committees, there's roundtables. There's also going to be different programs that we're doing and partnerships that we're forming. That we always use Big Brothers, Big Sisters, a great community project to get involved at the level, on a personal level. We're out doing different things with the faith-based organizations, so we can use the volunteership. Our goal is to have over 1,000 volunteers by next year to put into effort of working in our backyards, working in our neighborhoods, and doing things that really make a difference in this area. So if there's anything we can do, please don't hesitate to call, and we'll try to do our best. I'll turn it back over to Cheryl. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. At this time, I'd like to introduce Agent Randy Feathers Agent Feathers is a 1979 graduate of Penn State University with an associate degree in letters, arts, and sciences. Agent Feathers is also a graduate of the Indiana University of Pennsylvania with a bachelor degree in criminology, as well as a graduate of the Metropolitan Police Academy, Washington, D.C., the Pennsylvania State Police, Municipal Academy, and the Pennsylvania Office of Attorney General Academy. In addition, he has received additional training from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the United States Justice Department, and others. Agent Feathers has been a law enforcement officer since 1981 when he began his career with the Washington, D.C. Police Department. In 1982, he was hired by the Altoona Police Department, where he served until 1988. While with the Altoona Police Department, he was assigned to the Criminal Investigative Division in the Narcotic and Vice Unit. Agent Feathers has been with the Pennsylvania Office of Attorney General, Bureau of Narcotics since 1988. In 2005, Agent Feathers was named the Director of the State College Regional Office of the Attorney General's Bureau of Narcotics Investigation and Drug Control. As director, Feathers supervises and directs narcotics investigations in 14 counties of Pennsylvania. So at this time, turn it over to Randy.
He snuck that in on me. I didn't know she had that little bio that my mother made up for me. I wish he would have just said Randy Feathers, he's from Blair County, grew up here, raises his kids here, and is very active in the community, because I think that sets me apart from other people you see from Harrisburg and the government. I mean, this is true passion for me, what's going on in this community. I have grandkids hopefully going to be moving here if I can talk my son into bringing them back. But it's very important to me what goes on in this community. Like I said, I grew up here. I was a policeman here, and I was also the Blair County Drug Task Force Coordinator for 7 years here. So I have a real good idea of what's going on now and how things have changed. And one of the things that have changed dramatically, when Mitch and Janice and Tony and I were young cops here, if we'd have a problem in some area, we could call the landlord, and the landlord would come in, and he was very aware of what was going on. I saw that slowly dissipate, really, over the years, where sometimes we don't get the partnership, the cooperation with landlords that we'd like. And that goes back to what Michael talked about, our town. And that's what we want you people to build into. This is our town. I'm sure all you people have children living here. You people live here. It's our town. And we could have 500 landlords that are doing their job professionally, answer to the community how they're doing them. But if we have one or two bad landlords out there, they could really blow up the whole system for us, because we do have a problem with drugs in Blair County. I used to say that, and I have people attacking me afterwards, but I think everybody realizes that we do have a drug problem in Blair County. I don't think that's not on the table anymore. We have to deal with reality and what we have to do. In law enforcement, we're not asking you people to do our job for us. We're asking you to help us do our job. And we need your eyes and ears out there. We need your responsibility out there. We have a lot of people that are coming into this community from other areas, and they're moving in here, a lot of them specifically to do drugs. If you notice this summer, how many arrests the Altoona police have made, the Blair County Drug Task Force, the money we've gotten through Michael, our town group. I mean, we have really been arresting people, and the majority of those drug dealers are out-of-town people. And they come here, they rent sometimes through third parties. What we see generally is they get a female, usually a Blair County female, with no record, and they might be renting off one of you people. And next week after they move in, then the people from New York come in and move into those areas. And we're asking you to be more responsible, to take a look at what's going on in your properties and help us. I don't want you to go in there and be the police and go in there and start knocking through doors and throwing people out. We'll do that for you in a legal sense, but we do need your help. And I'm going to have Agent Sassano come up, and he's going to talk a little bit about specifically the drug problem in Blair County and some of the trends we're seeing. We also have a video in the Altoona Police Department we're going to play It's going to help you maybe identify some things, and we're going to open it up for all of law enforcement, 10 minutes or so, to ask us some specific questions you need to ask us. Thank you. I'm very impressed with the turnout. Sometimes when I have these things, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, because sometimes the people I want to really talk to and have a real serious conversation, they may not be sitting here because they're not interested in this. You people should be applauded for being here, because obviously you've already taken that first step that we want you to take, and thank you. Tony Sassano. Tony was a retired city detective in Altoona Police Department. He's been with the Attorney General's office 7 years now. He lost a year in there somewhere. But he's with us 8 years, a very talented investigator. He's a Blair County Drug Task Force coordinator here. He's really done some wonderful things. They got rid of the old guy and brought this new guy in, and he's doing a wonderful job. And I'll turn it over to Anthony Sassano.
Thank you. Like Randy said, it's a great turnout here. Appreciate being here and talking to all of you. It's an honor for me to be here in front of you. It's an honor for me to be the Blair County Drug Task Force coordinator. I have about 82 officers who work for me. They're from 13 municipal police departments in the county of Blair, and by no means should anybody not believe that they're the backbone of the task force. These officers are out there not 24 hours a day, 18 hours a day, about every day of the week, and they're out there buying drugs. We have not had a problem make 2, 3, 4 buys a day. Sometimes we have money problems. Now, maybe with our town here, we won't have the money problems, but sometimes we lack the state resources to buy these drugs. The biggest problem in Blair County, probably in most other areas, but we'll talk about Blair County, is the users. There are a ton of drug addicts in Blair County. And because those drug addicts are here in Blair County, the out-of-town dealers are coming here. Like, not to steal Randy's line, I've heard him say it before, these out-of-town drug dealers aren't bringing drug addicts here with them, okay? There are people, there are our friends, neighbors, relatives, acquaintances who are using the drugs. Insatiable appetite for drugs here in Blair County. Sort of getting off the track, thumbnail sketch, small bag of heroin costs $5 in New York. On the street right now, we're paying $25 for that. These people go out, rob, steal, do whatever they can to make money to buy these drugs. And that's what we're faced with every day. Anybody know what the two predominant drugs here in Blair County that are being used? Anybody have? Basically heroin and crack cocaine. Heroin and crack cocaine. When I hired on in 99, I went up to Williamsport to work for a period of time. I was banished up there. Crack cocaine was the predominant drug then. I came back a year and a half later. Heroin was a predominant drug, continued to rise, and now crack cocaine is sort of coming back. Heroin is the main drug, though. Heroin is extremely addicting. You can use it one time and be addicted to it the rest of your life. A lot of people can't even imagine that. I couldn't either, but I see it every day. See it every day. Had court yesterday, spent 8 hours with a recovering drug addict who's now locked up in a state correctional institution. Nicest girl. If she was with me all the time, you would think, wow, she could be my daughter, for example. Nice girl. But when she gets out of jail, is she going to fall right back into that same thing, start shooting heroin into her arms? Chances are she will. There's only about a 2% recovery rate. It's very sad. But that's what we're faced with every day. That's the drug problem here in Blair County. And like I think Michael referred to, Altoona is the metropolitan area of Blair County. These drug dealers, especially the ones from out of town, like to live in Altoona as opposed to Greenfield Township or Snyder Township, more rural or more urban environment here in Altoona. So they seem to congregate here. I'm sure most of you have most of your properties, I'm just making a guess, here in the city of Altoona, because there's more housing in the city of Altoona than in the outlying areas. So that's why they come here. Drug dealers from out of town are a major, major problem. Brooklyn, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh is making some inroads here. Recently, we arrested somebody from Alabama here selling drugs. A few months ago, we arrested somebody from Detroit here bringing drugs in. All in the city of Altoona. All in the city of Altoona. What these guys do, just so you know, like Randy sort of hit on it, they don't come in here to go to work. They don't come in here to rent a property. They don't come in here certainly to buy a property. What they do is they move in with an Altoona/Blair County drug addict. And they'll live there for free. They'll give that drug addict a bundle of heroin, 10 bags of heroin, to live there per day. That costs them $50, but that's nothing. They're making money hands over fist. It's nothing unusual for us to arrest an 18 or 19-year-old kid. He has thousands and thousands of dollars in his pocket and doesn't work. More money than I carry around in my pocket, and probably more than what most of you carry around on a regular basis. And what they do is they wire the money back to New York, Philly, or Baltimore. So like I indicated, these people come in here specifically to abuse, take advantage of people who live here in this area. They don't contribute one thing to society or to Blair County. They don't benefit Blair County in one way. They'll move in with that local drug addict. I've been asked to talk about the warning signs of drug activity. Well, essentially, the key primary thing is whenever there's drug activity, whenever a dealer comes in, is in a particular apartment house, hotel even, drug activity, the traffic picks up tremendously. There'll be 30 people at that house in a half hour. Word spreads. It's like an underground, and all the drug users will start talking to each other, and they'll say, hey, so-and-so's holding. Holding means they have drugs. So-and-so's holding. Go over there. It's good stuff. So in that half hour, you might have 30 visits, people going into that house, driving up there or walking, going into that house for just 1 or 2 minutes. They generally don't stay long. These out-of-town dealers especially want fewer people to know them, so what they'll do is they'll let that tenant of that resident do the actual deals. The out-of-town guy will be sitting upstairs, a local person will come in to buy drugs from the local drug addict who rents that place, then they'll go upstairs, get the drugs, come down, get the money, and the guy's out the door. It just happens that quick. So if you see a lot of short-stop activity like that, you can bet that there's a good chance there's drug activity there. We all have common sense that we use every day. We all go visiting people. We know what normal is as opposed to unusual, and the person there isn't selling Avon. That's what's going on. It gets real hot, a lot of activity, then it will die down. Depends on how much dope the person has, the amount of activity. So the short-stop activity is the main thing. Other than that, the bags of heroin are small plastic or a wax baggie. Crack cocaine is commonly sold in sandwich bags, and I don't mean the whole bag. I mean, if you have a major quantity, yes, they'll use the whole bag. But commonly what is done is the drug dealer will go to whatever local supermarket, and they'll buy boxes of baggies. And they'll hold the box up, and they'll just cut the corners off. Put their cocaine in that, tie it off, so they get 2 corners. They get 2 bags out of one baggie, and they throw the other one away. So if you go into one of your tenants' apartments and you see a bunch of cut-off baggies there, they're selling crack cocaine out of there. That's a sure indicator. They'll get like I said, they'll get sloppy. You'll start seeing things laying around. You might see needles laying around. It could be out on the street. Or maybe it's in your neighborhood where you live, and it's not even a rental property. These are things you could see at a house in your neighborhood. Heroin, like I indicated, extremely addictive. If somebody is really in need of a fix, oftentimes they'll go into the house, buy the drugs. They don't wait to drive away if they have a car. They'll get in the car and they'll just start shooting themselves up with the heroin. So you'll see drug usage right in front of you. You could also see drug dealing right in front of you. Person comes out. Like I say, it's real quick stops. You have common sense. Usually if you stop and you see somebody on the street, you talk to them for a minute or so or whatever before you go on. If it's a casual acquaintance. These aren't even a minute. These are 10, 15-second meets. I give him something, he gives me something. You can't see anything being given because normally these items are so small. These are the street-level people. These aren't the major dealers who deal in much larger quantities. Another thing that we found, like I indicated, these people don't rent apartments. They'll move in with a local person. If you're renting to John Smith and his wife, and you go to the house to do a check or whatever you might occasionally do, or collect your rent, and there's 6 adults living in the house, you got a problem. They'll move as many in as they can, and they'll just stay there, and they'll tear the place apart. And just so you know, when we get enough evidence, and we can do a search warrant, we're going to tear your place apart, and we don't have to pay for it. Okay? We're going to knock the door down, which destroy the door. Altoona Votech was nice enough to build us a key. It's about this long, weighs about 44 pounds, and it's taken every door off its hit so far. We don't fix it. and we go through the house. We have to do everything legally, and we are doing this legally. I don't want you to misunderstand me. We search through the house for drugs. Drugs can be small quantities, small packages. When we clean a place out and look for stuff, we don't put the items back. Everything's laying there. The places, oftentimes, to be honest with you, the places are big messes when we hit them. Stink of cat, urine, dog feces, stuff like that. These are a lot of the places that we hit. But when we leave there, they're even a bigger mess. Working with the drug task force. Everybody know the hotline number. If not, it's 693-3010, 693-3010. If you live in the southern end of the county, 302, I'm sorry, I gave the district attorney's number. He'd appreciate a call too, though, if you happen to call it. 302, I apologize. From the southern end of the county, toll-free number is 1-866-693-3020. Call that number. If you want to remain anonymous, you can do so. It's basically a telephone with an answering machine on it. No caller ID. So we don't try to trick anybody and find out who they are as calling things of this nature. You call that number. Those phone numbers are taken off the answering machine, or if you call during the regular work week, the phone is at the district attorney's office. Someone may answer it if they're not tied up working for Rich and his staff. And you can leave your message. If you want call back, leave your name and number, and we'll call you back. Every one of those complaints that go in there, I see. I review them, and if it's something happens in Altoona, the Altoona Police Department gets a copy. The ones that are specific to them. If it happens in Logan Township, they get a copy. But I see every one of them. I read every one of them, and try to make assignments based on the information provided there. Try to do an investigation. The problem with a lot of them is anonymous calls saying Randy Feathers is selling drugs. There's not really a lot I can do with that. Okay, I got to be able to initiate a case. I have to have a little more to go on. But if I get a trend of those, a number of those, which lead me to believe there's more going on, and the person starts giving license plate numbers, all they have to do is call in the license plate number. We can run that license plate in our system and see who the owner is. And if there's a pattern established, and some of those plates are going to come back to people that I know are drug users, I got a little bit more. I probably got a little bit more to start set up surveillance. The fallacy in the system, and I don't know if it's a fallacy, a lot of people think when they call in a complaint, we're going to roll in the next day, take the door off the hinges and arrest everybody, and their lives move on happily ever after. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. We can't do that. Every time we do a case from the very beginning, we are preparing for a jury trial. We can't look past that because every person has the right to a jury trial. So we have to dot every I and cross every T. So we make sure we build the cases right. There's no sense in doing it unless you do it right. If we do something halfway proper or improper in any way, shape, or form, the case is going to get thrown out. We know that, so we act properly. We act legally. We consult with the Deputy Attorney General on cases. We consult with Rich Consiglio and his staff on cases if we have any questions, so that we know we're doing it right, the right way. So call that drug hotline. We do act off of it. Oftentimes it takes a period of time. We don't call you back, say, hey, we're doing this and we're doing that. I don't think most people call back because they call it in honestly. There's no way for us to call them back. But in order to set up surveillance and do the rest of our job with the investigative techniques that are required in narcotics investigation, takes a period of time. Takes a period of time. The best thing is to have somebody go in there, make a drug buy, whether it's an undercover police officer or an informant. That's the best case to build. We have to follow the legal procedures to get a search warrant. If somebody just calls in and says that they think there's drug activity there, we can't get a search warrant and go into that house. There's not enough probable cause. There's not enough basis for a judge to issue that search warrant. Everything we do has to be legally done. As I previously indicated, obtain license plate numbers. If you get 3 or 4 a day, you don't have to call in every day if you don't want to. You can do it once a week, however you want to do it. Basically, the drug hotline is controlled by the citizens, the eyes and ears of law enforcement on the street, as Randy referred to earlier. So you control that, how often you call, if you call at all. It is instrumental in a lot of the stuff that we do. It is time delayed, though, from whenever a person starts calling. A lot of people get frustrated. The past 2 years since I've been in charge, we've done 70 search warrants, 35 a year. That's a tremendous amount. If anybody knows anything about search warrants, that's a tremendous amount for a county this size. We've increased those numbers tremendously. So that's 70 doors we've taken off the hinges, because most like, maybe one or two we were let in without having to take a door off. That's happened about 70 times in the last 2 years. We've seized 6 homes. If someone is in drugs, you want me to quit? If someone is dealing drugs out of their house, and we can make a profit off of taking that house from them, to be quite blunt about it, we're going to take that house. I believe Mr. Valcosi is going to talk to you guys more about that. If a person bought his house from drug proceeds and we can prove it, we're going to take that house. Last year we took 6 of them. People say, what happens with that money? It gets divided up, basically. Blair County District Attorney gets half of it. Attorney General's office gets half of it. All of that money is reinvested in drug work. It's reinvested in overtime, equipment, making drug purchases. The officers don't get a bonus in their paycheck like some people do in private industry. That money is reinvested back into the drug work. We use it again. It's basically seed money to do more investigations. That's basically it with working with us. I mean, if anybody has any questions, I guess we're going to take questions at the end. But thank you for coming. It's a pleasure talking to you. Appreciate your cooperation. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. A couple things I just wanted to add with Tony. I was watching the movie Jerry Maguire with Tom Cruise, so I was thinking about it. And one of the big punchlines in that movie was "Show me the money." And when there's drugs, there's a lot of money around. And that's something I like you guys to look for when you're in and out of these properties. Money's everything. I mean, because I get a kick out of sometimes I go maybe down 6th Avenue and I see a BMW sitting down in front of a house. You know, you might as well have a thing on it, drug dealers here or something like that. Or you go in these houses and they have screen TVs as big as this in the living room. I mean, and sometimes people spend money stupidly. I understand that, but some people have more money to know what to do with, and they spend money they shouldn't be spending it on. So that's a tip-off, you know, with your property. I get into these. Sometimes we do these search warrants in these places, and it's all rented furniture, which I understand people do that sometimes. But if you ever see what it costs to rent furniture a month, and these people are supposed to be on welfare or some other type of program, and they're renting $1,000 worth of furniture a month, guess what? There's a problem there. These are things that you should be looking at and giving us a call. Also, gang signs. Although I don't think we have a major problem with gangs, but we want to make sure we stay on top of it. It is coming. You see gang paraphernalia around with colors and signs. You see different signs. Maybe jot them down and give us a call. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's something really important. But that would help us too. The other thing that Tony didn't mention, which is once again not a problem in this area, but I do want to make sure that it does come into our area on occasion. In fact, it's more prevalent towards Claysburg. I don't know if anybody's property down Claysburg, but it is methamphetamine, which has been a problem in other areas in Pennsylvania and the United States. It really has not came here to Blair County. Thank God we have enough problems with the crack cocaine and the heroin. But meth, I mean, if you go into your properties and you smell an odor you don't even know, never smelled before, but they tell me, well, I know it smells a little bit like cat litter. That was the only thing I can really describe it as. But it's a real like chemical type smell. It's a smell you would think there's a problem somewhere. Give us a call, let us know. I mean, there might be some valves around. There's other things that would stick out that you could ask us questions and maybe tell us that would help us. The meth labs, when I started in this business, they used to have these big meth labs in the middle of nowhere, and they'd cook with P2P, and it would be a long process, and they'd do it in the middle of the mountain somewhere. They don't do that anymore. They do it in hotel rooms. They do it in the back of cars. They do it in apartments that you people might be renting out. So we do see that. We've had that on a couple occasions here in Blair County, not too many, but I want to make sure you're aware of that. And the last thing before I show the video is just use us. Please call us. We want a partnership with you people. We're all on the same team. Everybody wants these drug dealers out of here. And the idea of a workshop like this is we want to make this area not conducive to people who don't want to deal drugs in our community. We don't want them here. You don't want them here. I don't want them here. We want them out of here. And we want to make it not a good area to sell drugs. If they can't find housing easily, or there's things that makes it harder for them, hey, that's what we're going to do. We're going to make it real hard.
You've seen the headlines. Drugs and crime soar in the city of Altoona.
Some neighborhoods are in decline and some residents are living in fear.
So now the question, what do we do about it?
Police are making progress, but they still need your help.
Do you know how to spot signs of illegal drug activity in your neighborhood?
If you see something happening, would you know what to do?
If you're afraid to get involved, don't be.
This video will give you the tools you need to help the police win the war on drugs, and more importantly, for you to take back your neighborhood.
Drugs on the streets, shots fired in neighborhoods and at intersections. It's not Chicago, Detroit, or even Pittsburgh. It's Altoona. Crime has infested this once quiet community. Police and city leaders are taking action. Enemy number one, the drug trade.
We're in a war on this drug problem, and we need all the help we can get, and every person in every community we need to stand up and help us fight this war.
Police are doing their part with a little help from the community.
In March of last year, police officers and agents from the Blair County Drug Task Force conducted a search on this residence. This was the result of a 3-month investigation that was initiated by calls made to the drug hotline. 4 family members were arrested and charged with drug violations. Drugs with a street value of $30,000 and cash were seized during the search. Due to the conditions of this duplex, the city's Department of Codes and Inspections was notified, and subsequently the house was red tagged.
But drug activity isn't limited to what you might consider bad neighborhoods. If you think your peaceful neighborhood is immune from the problem, think again.
Something we want to stress in this presentation is that crime can be anywhere in the city. We are in a neighborhood today that's one of Altoona's finer neighborhoods, a neighborhood where any of us would want to live. And many of you would probably be surprised to learn that about a year ago, the Altoona Police Department raided a drug house among these tree-lined streets.
Police arrested 5 people in that February 2005 drug bust. They found $50,000 worth of crack cocaine and tools used to make and distribute drugs. The bust happened on Montrose Avenue in the El Dorado section of Altoona. It's a nice family neighborhood not far from a Catholic elementary school. Proof that no area is exempt, and proof that now, more than ever, you need to get involved. So, what are the signs that there's drug activity in your neighborhood?
Certain activities are found to be common at drug houses. Generally, 1 or 2 of these indicators do not mean you have a drug house in your neighborhood, and they are not evidence of a drug house. These are circumstances that, taken together, create a reasonable amount of suspicion that warrant further investigation. These are some of the indicators you can look for. Vehicles stopping for short stays of 20 minutes or less, just long enough for someone to go in and make a buy. An inordinate number of vehicles. Cars left running with someone in the car while another runs inside. Suspicious vehicles. For example, clean plates on a dirty car. Influxes of increased traffic, whether that be vehicular or pedestrian. The house has different characteristics when traffic picks up, such as a new light is turned on or a blind is left partially open. Some kind of signal that they have drugs available. Surveillance equipment. People parking away from the premises and walking in. People carrying in tools or electronics, or other items they may be using to sell or trade for drugs. Accumulations of trash or junk. Deterioration of the premises or grounds, showing a general lack of pride in the property. Window blinds closed or windows boarded up. Chemical smells or odd odors.
But recognizing the signs is only half the battle. If you really want to rid your neighborhood of drug activity, you have to act. So, what do?
There is no single method or strategy to employ that will result in the closure of all drug houses. However, if you believe disruptive activity is a result of a drug house in your neighborhood, there are actions that you can take. Encourage your neighbors to keep a record of suspected illegal activity, including address of drug house, dates and times of activity, description of activity, exchange of money, number of visitors, weapons, lookouts, paraphernalia, description of occupants or suspected dealers, their sex, race, height, and weight. If known, give names of suspected dealers or occupants of the house, car license numbers of the occupants, and frequent visitors. Call the Push Out the Pushers hotline at 693-3020 to report suspected drug crime. It helps to provide your name and phone number. While an anonymous tip is better than none, a tip from an identifiable resident is more credible and may receive priority. Any information provided will be kept in strict confidence.
But what if you're afraid to get involved, or think you're overreacting, or simply think it's not my problem?
First of all, everything is extremely confidential. That if a call is made, it will be treated in the utmost confidence. The police simply aren't going to conduct a raid only because somebody makes a tip. So all it does is gives the opportunity for the police to begin paying attention to follow through on a concern and determine in their professional judgment whether that's proper.
Their information, coupled with additional information from an investigation, could lead to arrest and the possibility of the chronic drug house being shut down in their neighborhood.
We make a difference, but we also need the community's help with that. If everybody works as a community and assists us, we can help to combat the drug problem.
It's everybody's problem. We all have to live in this community. What we do now is going to create an effect on how our children are raised, how our children are going to play in these neighborhoods, what our community is going to be like.
Area crime watch groups are taking this message to heart. Dozens of area residents keep a watchful eye on their neighborhoods, helping police fight drug activity and other crime.
What I look for are a lot of traffic patterns, a lot of seeing the same vehicle in and out constantly, the same people coming in and out of a certain house or a certain apartment. If you see people at all hours of the day and night, and it's a constant stream of traffic, that's usually a pretty good sign that something's up.
Rinker is just one example of how everyday citizens are taking action. She urges more people to become active in Crime Watch. Blair Senior Services is ground zero for many of the groups. Call the agency to find out how you can make a difference.
We're the backbone of the community. We live here. And we're either going to make the community or break the community. So we have to do it.
It's important that we take action now. If we don't, my children are going to be at risk. I want to make this a healthy, safe, fun place to live. And I can't do it by myself.
With your help, authorities are confident we can win.
People are saying it's time to be involved, and this is how we're going to address this problem. This is how we're going to tackle this problem.
We have to be ever vigilant, and so if we maintain that vigilance and keep addressing the problem the way we have, then I'm very confident we're looking at a brighter future.
At this time, I'd like to introduce John Valcosi. Mr. Valcosi is an Assistant United States Attorney for the Western District of Pennsylvania and is Chief of the U.S. Attorney Johnstown's branch office. He joined the United States Attorney's Office in Pittsburgh in 1990 and was selected to be the Chief of the newly opened Johnstown branch in 1992. As Chief of the Johnstown branch office, he is responsible for prosecuting a wide variety of criminal matters, but specializes in the prosecution of narcotics cases. Mr. Valcosi has been a frequent guest lecturer at seminars sponsored by the U.S. Department of Justice Law Enforcement Coordinating Committee and has spoken at a number of other seminars in schools. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Valcosi.
Thank you, Cheryl and Michael, for inviting me to speak to the landlords today. I'm not from Altoona. I'm from Johnstown. But I appreciate what you're going through because we had the same problem in Johnstown. When I started the office in 1992, the city was run, literally being run by the Jamaican posse. And they had a stranglehold on the community with the sale of crack cocaine, drive-by shootings, drug houses everywhere. It was virtually out of control. And it took us almost a decade, really, to get the problem under control. I also applaud the vision of Michael, Cheryl, the executive board, the steering committees, in forming Operation Our Town. When Michael was up here in his opening remarks, he said business can't do it alone. They can't. Law enforcement can't do it alone. Landlords can't do it alone. Private citizens can't do it alone. The problem is too large to be addressed by any one faction. It's only if everybody comes together and works together as a unit can the problem be effectively addressed. And I know that. I mean, I have a positive message for you today because it's worked in the Johnstown area. We've taken some of these steps. We've had some significant successes. Has the problem been completely solved? No. Like Michael said, will you ever take the problem to zero? No. Because as long as you have people in this town or in Johnstown or in Clearfield or Bedford or Somerset who want to use drugs, you're going to have people who want to sell drugs. Like Tony said, the profit margin is astronomical. A $5 bag of heroin, a $5 rock of crack cocaine in Pittsburgh or Philadelphia or New York is sold for $25 or sometimes more on our streets. You talk to these drug dealers when they're arrested and their first thing is, well, okay, you got me. To them, it's the cost of doing business, so they go to jail for a few years. It's just the cost of doing business because they realize that sooner or later they probably will get caught. But they're willing to take that chance because of the astronomical profit margins. We have had some successes. You will have some successes, but only if everybody works together. Cheryl asked me to talk about the drug house elimination program, and that's what I'm here to talk about today. The drug house elimination program with the U.S. Attorney's Office is designed to work within a certain federal statute. It's commonly referred to as the crack house statute, but it's kind of a misnomer because it doesn't apply to just crack. It applies to any drug. And it doesn't just apply to houses. It applies to storage sheds. It applies to hotels. It applies to businesses. There's a question about a hotel over there, too. We have a great working relationship with the hotel community in the Johnstown area. They actually feed us information on who comes and who goes. We have an outstanding intelligence network in the Johnstown area with the hotel owners. Not all of them, but the vast majority of them. That's going to be developed in this area as well. Somebody asked a question, well, can we just do something to shut down the hotel if there's always police there? Can we do something to shut down a certain bar because the police are there all the time making arrests? And I don't mean for a bunch of people who are drinking too much and getting rowdy. I mean because of the drug sales going on in the bathroom or sometimes in the middle of the bar. The answer is yes, and that's what I'm here to talk about. The drug house elimination program, as I said, focuses on a certain federal statute. And that statute says that it's unlawful for any person to knowingly lease, rent, use, or maintain any place, whether permanently or temporarily, for the purpose of manufacturing, distributing, storing, or using a controlled substance. Does that apply to you? No, it doesn't. That applies to the individual, and I'm sure there are landlords in this area who do have drug houses out there. That applies to the individual, and it's designed to punish those who intentionally use their property and allow their property to be used for those purposes. I don't think that applies to anybody in this room, because if it did, I don't think you'd even be here today. But there's a second part of the statute. Really, there's three that I want to talk about. The second part of the statute states that it's also unlawful to manage or control any place, whether permanently or temporarily, either as an owner, a lessee, an agent, an employee, an occupant, or a mortgagee, and to knowingly and intentionally rent, lease, or profit from, or make available for use, with or without compensation, that place for the manufacture, distribution, or use of drugs. That applies to your tenants. That applies to the lessee. That applies to the woman, to the girls. We call them local facilitators in Johnstown. And Randy gave you, and Tony gave you good answers on why these people are so susceptible. I mean, think about these girls, and we see it too. We see the same thing in Johnstown. It's usually young women with at least one child, no father in the picture. They're on welfare. They have low self-esteem. Take a look and consider their lot in life. They don't have a whole lot. And now, Mr. Drug Dealer walks into the picture. Starts to pay attention to these people. Gives them money. Treats them nice for maybe the first time in their life. They actually have a male figure treating them nice in their life. And they just, it's like magnet to steel. They go right to them. And it doesn't take long for them to understand that, wow, he can give me things. He can get me things. And they allow that person to stay with them in their house. Do they know that the person's a drug dealer? Absolutely. Does it bother them? Maybe. But when they do a cost-benefit analysis, they'll go with the drug dealer. Many of them are addicts, and they'll throw them a few rocks of crack or some packets of heroin to stay there. Like Randy said, other ones aren't addicts, but they get money for it. When we prosecute cases on the federal level, we include those local facilitators in the conspiracy for the drug distribution network. Because the drug distribution network, unadmittedly, it couldn't survive without those local facilitators. This second part of the drug house elimination statute is targeted at them. If we have an individual, this local facilitator, who knowingly allows their property to be used, or their rental property to be used for selling drugs, for cooking up crack cocaine, for using drugs, for storing drugs, they will be prosecuted. We've been doing it regularly in Johnstown since the early 1990s. Again, has it solved the problem? Have we taken it to zero? Have we eliminated every single local facilitator? No. But they're fewer and they're further between. Cases across over the mountain into Randy's lap. I'm looking to clear out my 5 counties, to push them out of my 5-county area. There's one more facet of the statute that I want to talk to you about, because all of you are sitting back there saying, okay, well, how does this impact me? Federal forfeiture law, and I know Randy touched on this earlier too, federal forfeiture law allows the federal government to seize and forfeit any property, real property, personal property, cash, that is either the proceeds of drug distribution or if it's used to facilitate drug distribution. If you're a drug dealer and you buy a house, that house was purchased with ill-gotten gains, illegal proceeds, we can take the house. If you're a drug dealer who purchases a house and uses money to repair it and fix it up and remodel it, we can still take the house because the house is the proceeds of the illegal drug activity. What you want to be aware of is that part of the statute that talks about property that's used to facilitate the distribution of drugs or the manufacturing of drugs. If a drug dealer has a beautiful BMW and he sells the drugs out of that car, we can take the car. Not because the car was purchased with drug money, but because the car was used to facilitate the distribution of drugs. If drugs are sold out of a house, that house is facilitating the distribution of drugs, and we can take it. I know what you're thinking. Oh my God, they're going to take my house. There's something called the innocent owner defense in any federal forfeiture statute. If you loan your car to a friend, and this is a friend that you've known about, and the car is stopped by the police and they find drugs in the car, they find your friend selling drugs from the car. Was the car used to facilitate the distribution of drugs? Yes, it was. But can the federal government come in and take the car? No. You, as the owner of the car, are innocent. You had no knowledge of what was going on when you loaned that car to your friend. Therefore, you're an innocent owner, and the federal government can't and won't take that piece of property. I think you can see where I'm going with this. Innocent owner only applies if you're innocent, if you don't know what's going on. If you know what's going on, and if your friend says, hey, look, I need to borrow the car, you know your friend is a drug dealer, you know they're going to make a delivery, and you let them do it with full knowledge, are you an innocent owner? No. Can we take your car? Yes. Will we take your car? Yes. The same applies to the houses that all of you own and rent. If you know that your house is being used to facilitate the distribution of drugs, it can be seized and it can be forfeited. Again, the innocent owner defense applies. And that's where this drug house elimination program comes into play. There are 5 steps in this drug house elimination program that you need to be aware of. And that's why I'm here today. Step 1 is to identify those properties where drugs are being sold from. That's easy. I could ask any police officer on the street in Altoona. I could talk to Randy for 30 seconds and he can probably give me a list of at least a dozen places in this city. Tony can give me more of where drugs are being sold from. The second step is Mary Beth Buchanan, who is the United States Attorney for the entire Western District, will send the owner, and sometimes landlord, a letter by certified mail inviting that property owner to a meeting at her office in Pittsburgh. The letter will describe that their property has been identified as one from which drugs are being sold, and it's a problem for the police department. That's step 2, the certified letter from the U.S. Attorney's Office in Pittsburgh inviting the owner or landlord to a meeting. Is it a subpoena? Is it a mandate? Do you have to appear? No. You can ignore the letter, but the letter is going to be sent. Think about what the letter does, though. Whether you attend that meeting or not is almost irrelevant because that letter, sent by certified mail, has just put you on notice now and given you knowledge that your house is being used to sell drugs or to store drugs or to use drugs. Step 3 will be the meeting that I spoke about. That's invited in the letter. Step 3 is the meeting. You will have a meeting with the U.S. Attorney's Office, with the United States Attorney in Pittsburgh. You can take your attorney to the meeting if you'd like. Law enforcement will be at the meeting. We will explain the problem in great detail to you, and we will provide you with positive steps on how you, as a landlord, can combat the problem. We will explain to you, if you don't already know, how to change your lease. So the terms of the lease give you more ability, give you more power to control what happens in your own property. I know that a couple of other speakers have touched on these lease provisions. They are crucial that you have them in there. If you have Section 8 housing, those clauses are pretty much in there already. If you don't have Section 8 housing, you need to look at those clauses. And I know we're going to have another speaker discussing that. That's an extremely important tool that you can have as a landlord, as an owner, to combat this problem, and you need to take advantage of it. We will explain other options that you would have as a landowner, as a landlord, to combat this problem. And at the meeting, you will be given a timetable to correct the problem. It won't be 3 or 4 days. You'll be given a reasonable period of time to correct the problem. And this is easy to find out if you're taking any steps to correct the problem. Law enforcement will know immediately if you have taken any steps to correct the problem. You will be asked to show what steps you have taken to correct the problem. You will be given advice, you will be given assistance to help you correct the problem. But whether you correct the problem is your decision. That was step 3. At step 4, if after a reasonable period of time you have taken no steps, then we will file a civil forfeiture action and we will forfeit your property. Maybe that's the bad news I bring with me today. But if that's what we have to do to combat the problem, that's what we're going to do. And it's kind of sad that I have to stand here and really send this message to you, because by the very fact that you're here in this room, you care enough that you're going to take those steps. I don't have to stand up here and say, well, if you don't, we're going to seize and forfeit your property. Because that local street dealer, yes, while they're a problem to the community, it's a symptom more than the problem. The problem is the person supplying that person. So we want to know where that person is getting their supply from. So we'll flip them. A lot of times we're successful, sometimes we're not. But that person is then advised immediately upon their arrest. Because what you do is you make a controlled purchase from that person on the street corner. You then arrest them, take them down quietly. I don't want to use the word kidnap, but they just are removed from the street in a quiet manner. And they are explained the facts of life and what could happen to them. Under federal law, if you sell 5 grams of crack, it's a 5-year mandatory sentence. 5 grams isn't much. If you ever used a packet of Equal or Sweet and Low, that's 1 gram. So if you sell 5 grams under federal law, it's a 5-year mandatory sentence. So if we can get 5 grams on a street dealer, which again isn't very much, they're facing a 5-year mandatory sentence with no parole. And they're very eager to flip and give us their supplier. So they're wired up. They're going in with an undercover agent to get from their supplier. We'll do the same thing with the supplier. We go to the middleman. Now let's go to the top if we could. There's usually at least 3, sometimes 4 or 5 layers, but usually we see 3 layers in Johnstown. So we'll flip that person up the chain and try to get that person until we can get to the organization. And that's how it works. That person, the street person you're talking about, there are 2 scenarios I can explain to you. One is if that person is part of an organization, say of 10 other people, and that organization consists of 4 street dealers, 2 local facilitators, a mule who brings the drugs in from the outside area, and then you have the 1 or 2 leaders, or the leader and his lieutenant. Then we will take down the whole organization. That person will be prosecuted federally for their part in the conspiracy. If it's just some local entrepreneur, shall we say, who buys his crack from whoever has it at the time and sells it to make a profit, because it's probably 9 times out of 10 also an addict. And the reason they're selling is because they need money to support their own habit. Then we'll let the Cambria County Drug Task Force prosecute that person locally, and we'll go after the bigger fish on the federal side. If you have more than 50 grams of crack federally, which is about 2 ounces, it's a 10-year mandatory sentence. I have several cases in my office right now where if you have 2 ounces of crack cocaine and you have prior drug felonies, then it becomes a mandatory life sentence without the possibility of parole. I have an individual right now that I've just charged who's 33 years old and is in that boat. He has 6 prior drug felonies. At the age of 33, we catch him with about 3 ounces of crack, and he's looking at mandatory life without the possibility of parole. His life is over, but it was his decision, not mine. Long answer to a short question, I guess, but they teach us that in law school.
We're going to continue here with our program. Next, we have on the agenda Rich Consiglio, Rich has been an attorney for 37 years and a prosecutor for 19 years. During his career as a prosecutor, Rich has tried hundreds of cases before juries, including prosecutions for child abuse, drug crimes, and murders. Rich was elected as Blair County District Attorney in 2005. Rich has personally tried 5 death penalty cases. A top priority for Rich and his assistant district attorneys is combating drug dealers at all levels of the law, from obtaining convictions to seizing their property. Rich is determined to eliminate the profit of their crimes. Under Rich's direction, the district attorney's office is aggressively seeking remittance of bail monies from defendants who, while waiting trial at liberty on bail, commit other crimes. At this time, I'd like to introduce Rich Consiglio.
Good afternoon. I'm glad to see so many people here. I was a little bit late for the program because I was in court this morning, and we were able, through the state police efforts, to put another drug dealer in jail. This guy got 3.5 to 7 years in state correctional institution this morning. So that's the type of thing that we're constantly doing. It seems like it's a never-ending battle, but the point is, if you don't do it, you're going to be overrun with this type of stuff. As far as what we're here for today, much like John Valcosi, I have information for you on the state level of what the situation is with properties and what can be done. Now, I have a whole statute here, and I could read it off to you. I don't think anybody would be anything but bored with that. But nevertheless, the real property section, I think I will read to you, so you can understand what that entails. And it's pretty similar to the federal law. We don't have quite as much power as they do to do certain things, but we have similar powers. The section that I would read is this. It says real property used or intended to be used to facilitate any violation of the Controlled Substance, Drug, or Device and Cosmetic Act, and that means not just selling drugs, but the use, constant use in a residence of drugs, even if they're not being sold. Constant use of cocaine or heroin or marijuana by whoever your tenants are is enough to bring them under this act. It includes structures or other improvements thereon, and includes any right, title, and interest in the whole or any lot or tract of land or any appurtenances or improvements thereon. And that means not just a house. If you're renting a house as opposed to maybe an apartment, and there is some type of drug activity in the garage that may not be connected with it, or a shed in your backyard, or something of that nature, it still brings your property under this act. Again, it says, which is used or intended to be used in any manner or part to commit or to facilitate the commission of a violation of the Controlled Substance, Drug, and Device and Cosmetic Act, and things growing on, affixed to, and found in the land, which means growing marijuana plants. So that almost the entire gamut, in fact, the entire gamut of what could be involved with any kinds of drugs on your property could result in the confiscation of that property. Some people, I'm not really sure who or how many, but I have the impression from the time I've been a lawyer and the time I've been a prosecutor that a lot of people think that marijuana isn't a big deal. Well, it is. In fact, we have some pretty significant convictions we've gotten of just marijuana in the area, if you want to say just marijuana. A couple of examples would be we had an individual, a citizen of Mexico, was here in Blair County selling marijuana. In one instance, he came in with, I kind of call it a bale. You know, marijuana, usually when you seize it, is in plants. It has leaves and all this other stuff. It has roots, has dirt all over it. Well, this guy had so much, and he had it processed, which means he had it in a little bale, all tightened up, and it was just the final product. And that kind of stuff can be very small, but when it compacts together, you can tell how much he had, because he had about 20 pounds. And he's now serving time in the state correctional. He wanted me to send him back to Mexico. I told him to go to hell, basically. He told me President Bush didn't want people here, and they wanted the immigrants back in Mexico. I said, well, he was going to be stuck here for 10 years before he went back. So now he is. just had a joint federal prosecution. John is here from the federal government. They did a seizure a while back in a property, and I'm not getting any details with it because the prosecution is ongoing, but they did a seizure of some hallucinogenics at one area in Logan Township, and they found these people were also had a marijuana growing operation in, I believe it's Allegheny or Blair Township, I forget which of the two. And in that particular case, which may come home to you folks, that house was owned by the fella, his co-defendant, his partner, and the guy's mom. Well, now we're taking their house. And I'm sure that's going to put the mother out in the street, but she was enough involved, knew what her boy was doing, so now she's going to lose her house. We have been attempting to do what we can to drive these guys out. And I agree with John. One of the problems that I see, besides the demand, you know, if your kids are smoking or using coke or heroin, or your neighbors are, and they're paying money for that stuff, these guys are going to try to come in here. But one of the problems that I see, as John also sees, is people facilitating a place for these guys to operate out of. And that's why we're after these properties. Because if these guys have to stay in their car, or have to come in here and get out of their car and walk the streets to sell this stuff, don't have a house to go into, don't have a motel room to sell it out of, don't have some kind of a place to do business, it may not be impossible for them to do it, but it's going to be one heck of a lot harder for them to be able to conduct their business in this county. So far, I've been involved in 4 real estate seizures. One in Tyrone, the property's already been taken and sold. One in Altoona, where the property was taken and sold. Another one that's underway in Altoona, and then this last one I just told you about in either Duncansville, Allegheny Township, or so on and so forth. So the folks that think that we aren't going to do it, I assure you, we're going to take your property. It's just that simple. The question for you guys here today is, what can you do to keep us from doing that? Well, obviously, number one is keep drugs out of your property. But that's not as easy. And I know it's not as easy as said. You know, hey, you have somebody and you have a report, or people are telling you, or the police call you and tell you there's drug activity. It's not all that easy for you to walk into that place and say, get out. I mean, I know that. My thought is, you know, you report what you know to the police. Do what you can through the magistrates to get these people out. I don't expect anybody to go in there and get themselves in a situation where they're in jeopardy to throw some tenant out of their property. I mean, maybe some guys can go in and heave them out the second floor window. That's fine for a guy who can do that. I know most people aren't going to be able to do that or without getting a situation where they could get themselves in a physical confrontation or get some kind of jeopardy themselves. That's what we're not what we're looking for. But there's more than enough means to get these people out. And in a lot of situations where it is some individual here that's allowing another person into the house, it's much easier. It's a lot easier to go tell some 30-year-old woman, get out, keep this guy out or you're out, obviously, than it is to go and try to tell some Harlem drug dealer to get out of your house. I know that. And we're not trying to put that kind of burden on you. But the point is, it's simple enough to determine whether or not you have some facility or some ability to evict that person. And then you let the legal process take it over. As that gets into the only other clause that I would read to you here, and I'll only read part of it. And, well, I won't even read it. What it says is, if you honestly don't know what's going on, you honestly are an innocent victim, like John says, then we cannot take your property. But if people are telling you what's going on, if you see a lot of traffic going in and out of your house, you see different license plates, out-of-state license plates around your house, that's the type of stuff that could be enough to say, you know what's going on in there, and you better do something about it, you're going to lose that house. Nobody wants to hurt your business. Everybody needs to live. And today, it's not like 1,000 years ago where you could go out and plant a few potatoes and tomatoes and stuff, and you're living in a tent and you're happy. Today, you need money to live. People work to try to build up different ways that they can be satisfied with their lifestyle, where they can retire, where they can do stuff, and they need income for that. So we know that people that have chosen that their income input, their income flow comes from rental properties. We don't want to interfere with that. We know that you folks are hard workers. You folks bought these properties. You fixed them up. You're renting them out, and you have a right to get your rent and get your money paid back, get the place paid off. Get the place paid off, and make a profit for yourself. No one is intending to do you harm along those lines. But at the same time, we'll be damned if we're going to have these scum coming in from out of town, poisoning this county, ruining the economy, having drug addicts who get their drugs from these guys, stealing from businesses, going in at retail thefts, breaking into people's houses, breaking into your house to burglarize money from you, stealing from their moms and dads to support their habit because of these bastards from New York and Philadelphia and wherever. And whatever it takes to prevent that, that's what we're going to do. I'm not a very politically correct person, and I don't much give a what anybody thinks about me, and I'm old enough in my life that I'm not really concerned about elections. So I'm going to do what they're going to do one way or the other. It's just that simple. And we try to be fair with people in the community, but we also feel that we have the obligation, when I took this job, to try to protect the community. And one of the worst things happening to this community is the influx of drug dealers from the big cities and the influx of drugs that wasn't here 15 years ago. And basically, I'm not going to put up with it. Just that simple. And truthfully speaking, these guys are lucky the laws are as restrictive as they are as to what can be done to them, because they'd really be sorry. But that's not here nor there. Nevertheless, that's a situation that people find themselves in. And I, like John and like everybody else talked about, I'm very pleased that you people are concerned enough that you would be here. And that's what our town, for example, is all about. They were concerned enough that they felt the business community had enough of what I just got done saying. The business community is tired of people walking out of their store with 15 baseball bats and giving it some bozo to sell someplace on eBay. And the guy loses a profit. That store, made one of the stores in town, and I'm not going to rehash this thing, lost $180,000. They're thinking of closing because they lost so many sporting goods from these guys stealing. People, you hear once in a while in the paper, maybe obviously too often, of home invasions. A lot of that is just to steal money. And I know that personally. My daughter had some bozo climb in her window in the middle of the night, took money out of her husband's wallet, took the keys to her car, took it to Philadelphia, and they found out there were no tires on, no radio in it, whatever was good for it, it was sitting on a couple blocks. So I know what goes on whenever these people need to get money to supply their crack habit or their heroin habit. And that's what this whole thing's all about. That's what our town's all about. Trying to get the business people together who fed up to here with this crap. And basically, we're going to continue to do what we can. And all we're asking for the landlord is to make yourself educated about what you can do and how you need to do it. And I always say, when I talk to people, they want to know, what can we do? Hotel manager says, what can I do? I say, the number one thing is be vigilant. See what's going on in your property. Once you see things going on that don't seem like they're right, then all you need to do is report it. Report it to the drug hotline. Report it to the police. Once you've taken those steps, it's at least my opinion, and pretty much my opinion kind of governs right now for the next couple of years in Blair County as far as who's getting arrested, or at least who's being prosecuted. If it's the police, who tell me who's getting arrested. But if it's a decision for me as to whether you get prosecuted or your property gets taken, and someone tells me, heck, this person reported this to the drug hotline. This person reported to the police that they had activity in their residence and they didn't know what to do about it. Well, then I'm saying, hey, that guy's doing the best he can to keep it out of. We're going to get those people that are in there, but we're not going to hurt the landlord and take his property whenever he's trying to correct the situation and just doesn't have all the ability himself to do that. So vigilance is number one if you would ask me what to do. And that's the most important thing. Find out what's going on in your properties. Also, when you rent to somebody, one of the quickest ways to be a good landlord, as far as this problem goes, is to run a $10 background check on the prospective tenant. It costs $10. And make them pay for it. But run a background check, especially if the person is giving you an out-of-town address. And especially if there's some way that you happen to know that they have only been in town 6 months, a year, 2 years. You know, a lot of the times when we arrest people, you see in the paper they're an Altoona address. Well, and a lot of their lawyers want to say, well, they're local. Well, hell yeah, they're local for 5 years. 6 years ago, they were living in Brooklyn. That's tough. Don't cut it with me. That don't make them local to me. The situation is, how long have they been here? Where are they coming from? And what are they doing here? That's what it gets down to. And that does not eliminate the homegrown drug dealer. We got them too. But to be honest with you, we much easily dealt with those guys before the influx came here from out of town. It's never good. It's never condoned. We're never going to, you know, kind of slough it aside because the guy was from Altoona all his life as opposed to somebody coming in here. But the problem has magnified beyond all comprehension because of the out-of-town drug dealer. And I believe that the people that are coming into town are pretty easily spotted if you're in a situation where you're dealing with where they live. And that's basically all we're asking from here. And I would also, someone asked before, what happens to the street dealer? I tell this to everybody just because I don't like people not to know the problems we have with street dealers. Street dealers often do not get heavy sentences. There are 3 problems you run into with what you call the street dealer. Street dealers, for the most part, are addicts. And when I say that, that's not because I sympathize with them or in any way justify the fact they're addicts. They made themselves addicts. You didn't make them an addict, and I didn't make them an addict. They're no better than anybody else in the drug scene as far as I'm concerned. But the law looks at different things. It looks at what offense it is, whether you've gotten caught basically in the past, what they can do for you, what they can't do for you, when you need to go to jail. So the first thing that happens to anybody, this is even big time dealers, when you get arrested, the only type of bail that you don't get is in a first-degree murder capital case. That's the only crime that's not bailable. Every other crime, no matter how bad you think it is bailable. So that the bail, even if it's high, if he can get a bail bondsman to go his bail, that person is going to be on the street until his case is resolved either by trial or a guilty plea or whatever process it goes through. So that any dealer can be on the street. And people, I think, really think, how does that happen? Well, it happens because you cannot stop it under the law if they can get bail. And the less opportunity that you would have to leave the area, the lower the bail is going to be. Because not only are you entitled to bail, bail is only allowed to assure your attendance at whatever proceedings go on, preliminary hearing, conferences, pretrial hearings, trial. Bail is not allowed to be used to punish you. Punishment comes only when you're sentenced. So that not only are you allowed bail, you normally have a right to have the bail low enough that all it does is assure that you're going to show up for all these different proceedings. That's why whoever asked, drug dealers in the first instance are on the street after they've been arrested. Because most of them either have low bail or a higher bail than a bail bondsman, or they actually have the money to post, or because they have what they call unsecured, because they're a local person who's lived here all their life, Their family's here. They may even work here, and the judge cannot come up with a reason to make bail any higher than that. That's number one, why people are on the street after they've been arrested. Number two is what you call sentencing guidelines. And also, going along with that is what cooperation they give to the police. Sentencing guidelines are the guidelines you have to go by to sentence people, and they're prescribed by the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania. And if you go outside those guidelines, one way or the other, you better have a damn good reason for doing it, or that case is going to come back and be tried all over again, or that guy's going to be resentenced. And the guidelines for first offenders are low. They're as low as 3 months. So that you can figure a person be in and out of jail in 90 days, maybe while you see him on the street 3-4 months after he was arrested. Or you see him on the street the next day because he got bail, finally he goes to court, maybe he gets 3 months and he's back in your neighborhood, a year from now. That's the reason that you see that. There's not a whole lot, in many cases, you can do it. And then you also have the problem along those lines that, just like John Valcosi was telling you, you want to flip these people. Well, if they're low street dealers and are not going to get